Today you are watching KUHS, the stream on Melody Drive. I am your host of today's Weekend Boost. My name is Paul Lane, and I just thank you so much for joining us today. You see we have an empty seat right now. Beatrice Montoya, the author of the book, The D, B, and G Bed and Breakfast, is on her way up now. And so we're going to go ahead and get started, and we'll keep a seat warm for her. So guys, I don't know if any of you out there have thought about writing a book. Some of you may be thinking, man, I can't write a book. I just don't have, I'm going to silence this phone here. I just don't have anything to write about. I don't have any expertise. You know, there's a lot of different things that people think, and honestly, the truth of the matter is that you can write a book about your own life. You know, if only your family reads it, only if your grandchildren read it, your descendants, it's something that will be left long after you leave this world. And Beatrice took this time to write this memoir, and she really did it so that her family could know who she is. And I enjoyed reading this book. I mean, it was really a cool story. I like that it's a true story, you know. She just used her creative spirit and just started writing. And you know, in her story she talks about this dog Buster that's a beat up old Rottweiler, and these, you know, I don't want to tell too much about the story, but you know, you got a book in you, and the book is waiting to be written, and you may not have writing skills. It doesn't matter. You may not have ever written a book before. It doesn't matter, guys. The name of this show is the Weekend Boost, or the Boost, and you know what we do is we talk to authors, and there's nothing in the world that's keeping you from making that step and writing that first page. You know, when I wrote my book, I started out writing blogs. You know, my wife was dying of cancer, and I was in a really dark spot in my life, and I didn't have any answers for anything, but I knew that was my release, and that was how I was expressing my fears, my doubts, my thoughts. And I started writing a blog, and man, pretty soon I started seeing that I was getting a pretty good following, 20 people, 30, 40, 50. Before I knew it, I had like 80 followers just on my blog. And you know, people would send me emails. They would say, hey, you know, don't stop writing. We read your blog every night. And you know, if you're one of those people who read those blogs, thank you. But someone came up to me and said, you know, you've written so many blogs, and you've done so much research on this subject that you've become an authority on it. And so why not? So man, I just started writing my book, and she is here. Guys, I am going to take just a moment. Good morning. Come on in. Morning. We are live. And I want to welcome you, Beatrice Martinez. Those of you who follow the show, Montoya Martinez. I was thinking of Albert Quintana, and I saw you. So she's, you know, those of you who follow the show, she is Albert's cousin. So Albert wrote the book No More Green Chili, and welcome.
Thank you.
So good to see you. So good to have you.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed your book. It's been very interesting.
Well, good. I'm glad you liked it.
Yes. You know, I was just talking about, you know, if you don't know what to write, you know, because I always try to encourage people, write, you know, something.
Yes.
And you've written a memoir of your life, and
right.
And so you're the B in the D, B, and G.
Well, no. Actually, it's my granddaughter's. Danielle Beatrice was named after me.
Oh.
And then Grace.
I got it. Okay. So this is a cool story of these three. Are they siblings?
Yes.
They're siblings, yes. And they all decide to move from the big city of Denver down to the tiny little, a little town in New Mexico, you know, right near Chimayon.
Yeah, by the Santuario.
By the Santuario,
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What is the Santuario? I know it talks about it in the book, but talk about the Santuario.
Well, the Santuario was built there, I don't know how long ago, but I've been there a few times. And they have, I think what it's all about is a miracle dirt that they have there that people collect, and they truly believe that the infant God has given them this miracle. They take a lot of their troubles over there to the Santuario. It's like a church.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they have a room where they have like a hole in the ground. Mm-hmm. And that's where people collect the dirt and they take it home.
Mm-hmm. And it's holy dirt. It's a special dirt.
It's a special dirt, and like Father Roca said, because he was the one that maintained the santuario for years. Yeah, he said it wasn't really the dirt, it was the faith of
That's
the people.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
And I so appreciate that because, you know, I just believe that we have so much power to heal ourselves that we don't even know.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
and, you know, and faith is really the key, you know, and
Right.
I think about a story, you know, during World War II when there were all these injured combat soldiers, and they ran out of morphine. And so this young soldier says, you know, we're just going to tell them it's morphine. We're going to go in there, and, you know, they said, this is the most powerful painkiller we've ever had. It's so powerful that it just looks like water, and we're going to inject it into you. And every one of these soldiers was relieved of their pain, and they were given just the insulin. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
just sugar water, nothing more.
Yeah.
And so our faith is such a powerful thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But my book does say I do use a lot of my own faith in, you know, telling people how my life has been through my faith.
Yeah, you do a lot of stories about faith and about your experience, you know, as a person of faith, you know. And
Yes, I try to tell the story that, you know, my granddaughters, for instance, come from good stock. They had good beginnings, and most of the stuff that I write about in the book is advice, you know. Maybe they don't know it's advice at this point, but it is advice for them to kind of follow a good life.
Yes.
I've had a good life, but I've had a lot of, you know, things that happen in life. Been able to deal with them through my faith. And I want them to know that you can do that too.
It's a choice.
Yes.
It really is. And you know, so many times I go through my life and I think about, I look at people and I see things going on in their life, and I think, you know, gee, you know, you have a lot more control over this chaos than you think, and you know, and so part of what I do is I reach out to people and I try to give them a little bit of guidance and wisdom. And last night, you know, my lady Dee and me were home, and her cousin came over. He just lost his wife a couple of months ago, and he came over and he told me about my book that I wrote, and he told me, I look at your book and I get information from it all the time, and I'm like, wow, that was like, that was why I wrote the book, you know.
Well, my mother wrote her memoir, and she was like in her, I think maybe 70s or 60s when she wrote hers. And she wrote the day we were born, you know, each one of us, there was 12 of us. So every once in a while I get to peek into that book, and some of that information may be in that book that I wrote, you know.
Wow.
Because she wanted us to know who she was. And I want people to know who I was, or who I am.
You bet, you bet. And you know, I think about books, and I think about how forever they are. I mean, they will outlive us, they'll outlast us. And,
yes.
And when we've been gone 100 years, someone can pick up this book and say, oh, look at this, D, B, and G, bed and breakfast. Wow, that's pretty cool, you know, and you might just reach a soul that's not even born yet.
Possible.
What made you decide to write this?
Well, Danielle, Beatrice, and Grace are a product of a divorce that happened after 18 years. And after the divorce, everything changed, and it was a messy divorce. So the girls were hearing things that weren't true, probably, and they had forgotten all the stuff that we did, because our family was very, you know, close. I babysat them when they were little. And so I think that I wanted, well, before that, after the divorce, Danielle asked me how I knew how I knew when it was time for me to get married, you know.
Mm.
And she was like 17, and I think she had a boyfriend or something, and so she wanted to know if, you know, how I found out how I married my husband Benny, Grandpa Benny, and so she wrote me a letter, and she wanted to know that, and I thought, well, you know, I think I need to leave some information for these girls to tell them about our family, about their dad's family. And that's what I've done in that book. And hopefully, you know, they're still pretty young. Hopefully that they will pick it up, you know, one day and read it to their own children. And get something out of that book.
Absolutely.
But I think any young person, if they read this book, I think it'll be good for them.
Yep.
You know.
I had a guest last year, or maybe 2 years ago, Charles Atencio. Charles, if you're listening, I love you, man. But he wrote his memoir, you know, and he was up in his 80s, and Charles has just been one of the most special human beings to me since then. You know, we've become friends. He's on Facebook, and he wrote a memoir. And it was to remember his legacy, so his grandchildren, his children could see this is who I was. And I got to tell you, that inspired me. That inspired me greatly because, you know, so many people say, well, I don't have anything to write about. Well, you do.
Yeah, I tell people to write all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I started by journaling.
Yes.
And when I was, you know, I retired when I was, in '98 I retired. And I started journaling. I wrote a lot of poems, which I have, and journaled.
Wow.
Different situations that I was going through, and actually I could probably write another book. You know.
Yeah, sounds like you got a poetry book in you. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding.
I just submitted two poems for an anthology for the KUHS book, and a couple of short stories.
Wow. Oh, by the way, guys, tomorrow afternoon at 17th and Federal at the GI Forum, CALMA, the Colorado Alliance for Latino Mentors and Authors, will be having an open meeting, and it's going to be a potluck. It's going to be, I believe, at 1 o'clock. Please, if you get a chance, go there. Go and meet some of these Latino leaders and communicators and mentors that are going to be there, and you know, take some time, go out there and see it. Go out there and rub shoulders with some of these awesome minds. I'm telling you, it's going to be great. I want to throw that in there.
Thank you. Yeah, thank
Yes.
you for saying that. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try to get there because we've been invited, the comma authors have been invited to bring a book over to the library at one of the schools there in Erie. So I want to take my book over there and
Nice.
see. I think it'd be good for junior high even, I think, you know, high school.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's characters in the book. I mean, Buster.
Oh, yeah.
Was he a real character? Was he a real dog?
Well, actually, yes.
Wow, what a story.
But not the story. The story is, you know, it's fiction. But I wanted to put him in there because he was, you know, the girl's dog, and he, you know, they loved him.
And he got cancer.
And he died of cancer, yeah. So they've always had dogs, and so I wanted to put that story in there because a lot of my stories that I have in there actually, you know, they didn't happen, but in circumstances where, you know, I talk about Father Rand. It was kind of weird because I picked the name Rand for some reason. It just came to me. And so I picked Father Rand, and then later on I'm trying to find out in the book, we're trying to find out more about Father Rand. And he was kind of something that I experienced. We were at Ojo Caliente, my daughters, and this lady came by, This was in New Mexico. She came by and she said, well, I see somebody's walking with you, you know, and you know how New Mexico is. They have so many stories about the unknown, and so I kind of felt that I should put some kind of a story. You know, it's you know, fiction, but it's a good story.
Yeah, great read. By the way, it was so easy to read this book. I like to read a lot of the book out to Dee, my lady, and she loved it. By the way, she wanted to tell me she really enjoyed your book.
Oh, good. Tell her thank you.
Yeah, and it flowed very nicely. It was very well put together. Did you talk about editing? Did you edit your book, or did you have it edited, or how was that process for you?
Well, you know, I have a brother-in-law that's an author also, and his name is Charlie Garcia, and he's an ex-school teacher there in Erie. And he's written several books, and he uses I forget what the name of the you know, publisher is. Oh, Lulu.com.
Okay.
And you can self-publish books. So that's what I did. You know, I had him edit it, and then he'd send it into Lulu.com. And but I really do have a lot of, you know, I only went to 12th grade. Didn't get to go to college. That was in '52. So in those days, they didn't have like the grants that they have now sometimes for the minorities. And so my only thing I could, you know, I had behind me was I was good at in the business field. So I knew how to type, I knew shorthand, and I was very good at spelling. I used to beat a lot of them at spelling bees, you know. And so I was good at spelling, and so I had that behind me. I was administrative assistant to the controller of a farmers union insurance company for several years. And I started as a clerk, but I've worked my way up to administrative assistant.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So I do have a lot of my own, you know, I don't think you have to edit too much. You know,
that was very,
spelling, yeah.
You know, I've gotten to now, you know, after having so many guests and so many books, it's like I habitually go in, you know, and I don't look for them, but you find mistakes, and it was like, gee, this book was very well edited.
Yeah.
I mean, it was very, you know.
Yeah, well, like I say, I read a lot too.
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah.
I always talk about the book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and I read that book critically, and just to look for editorial errors, and oh my gosh, this book had to be edited by no one. I mean, and it was a bestseller.
Yeah, I know, isn't that something?
Yeah, bestseller, and I mean, you can find mistakes on every single page in that book.
How does that happen?
I don't know, but I don't mean that as a criticism of the book, because it's been very successful. It's very, very influential.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, it just really is a testament to your writing skill don't let that be a challenge if you're thinking about writing. No. You know, if you can't spell right, there's spell check. I get this one too. I can't write because I just don't know how to type. You know what? There's programs now that will speak. You can speak it and it'll write the whole book for you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's getting to be less and less of an excuse for not writing.
Yes, I know. I did know how to type, but the thing that I didn't know too much about was my computer. And so, yes, I could type the story and everything, but I couldn't really format it or, you know, do that. So my daughter, Veronica, helped me a lot on that. I mean, there were a lot of times I had to wait to get an answer, but I was persistent.
That's it. It's persistence.
Yeah.
It's really persistence. Guys, if you're just joining us, you're watching the Weekend Boost, and you are on KUHS, the stream on Malady Drive. We are talking to Beatrice Montoya, the author of D, B, and G, Bed and Breakfast. I'm going to hold this up so you can see this. Guys, this is not available in bookstores, but I'll tell you what, it's an interesting read. It's a very, there's a lot of humor in it. There's a lot of love in it. There's a lot of values, family. There's a lot of anecdotes in there. Like Beatrice said, there's a lot of really good little tidbits of information in there, and I think it's very useful. Oh, is that the final copy?
My second book.
Oh, book two. Wow, let me hold that up so the camera can see that.
Where do I hold it up to?
Right here, yeah. So this is part two, and so you know what? That's just huge. That's an inspiration because you're retired.
Yes.
You don't have a job.
88.
You're 88. Guys, I mean, the excuses just keep melting away.
Really? If I can do it, you can do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this book here has a lot more information, about history, and the history of my family.
Yes.
And a few secrets have been exposed here, but.
Very good.
I think.
Like the cover of that one too.
Yeah, my sister did the painting here on this one.
I love it. Yeah.
And
very
then
nice.
my daughter-in-law did that one.
So yeah, that's a very subtle, very nice flowing cover, and guys, you just never know. You might stumble upon something that changes the world. You just don't know. Last week we had a guest, Rudy Garcia, and Rudy wrote a book on Chicano fantasy, and oh my gosh, what an amazing piece of literature. Oh, he's I call him a wordsmith. I mean,
Yes.
he puts words together that you just melt into the words. I loved it, and yours was very similar to that, and in a different way because yours was more realism and it was more emotional and family oriented, and so it had a lot of emotion in it, and it was just very compelling to read, easy to read, and so.
Yeah, I've gotten that a lot. The people like it. They called it a beautiful story.
Mm-hmm.
And they want me to write other books.
Nice.
But this one actually is at the West Side bookstore.
Oh, cool.
On 32nd and Irving.
Ah.
Yeah. So I do have that one. Yeah.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
So guys, I mean, there's no limit. There's really no limit. The limit that we place on ourselves is really the only limit. I don't believe that you need to be afraid that someone won't like your book, because it doesn't matter. You're not writing a book for someone else. You're writing that book for literally for your own enjoyment, for your own reward.
Right. That's important.
Now, you had 12 years of education, same as me. I got 12 years of education, and then I educated myself.
I did that too.
Yeah, because
School of Hard Knocks.
Yep, School of Hard Knocks. Yep, I'm working on my master's degree in that school, and boy, I got the bumps to prove it.
Yeah.
Now, where was your family originally from?
Well, my dad came from New Mexico, northern New Mexico, called Ojo Caliente, not Ojo Caliente.
Ojos Feliz?
No, it was Cerrito.
Ah, okay.
It's Cerrito. And then they came to the Colorado like in late 20s, I believe. And they came to the Fort Collins. Well, first of all, they were approached by a man that needed some work done at his farm in Montana? No, in Wyoming. And so they took a train. They left their little hacienda and took a few of their belongings and got on the train, and they went to they went to Montana. I've got two of them mixed up there. Yeah, they went to Montana. And they were there to harvest. They did the sugar beets. And then after 2 years, they bought a car and they drove to Fort Collins. And then they ended up working the fields there for several years. Yeah.
Wow.
And my husband's family, they're the ones that went to Wyoming.
Okay.
They were from the San Luis Valley, and they went to Wyoming.
Wow.
Yeah, and worked the sugar beets.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a lot of those are people of our generation, our forefathers. You know, they suffered a lot, and they pretty much you know, paved the road for us. And they lost out a lot. I believe they really lost a generation of education. Because when they came to Colorado, it was different. You know, in New Mexico, they were able to use their own language. And when they came to Colorado, they were, you know, they were not allowed to use their own language. They would, you know, hit them on the hand with a ruler,
Yep.
or even a whipping maybe, you know.
Yeah, and people don't really believe that.
Yeah.
You know, my mom told me about how in Walsenburg, Colorado, her hands were hit with rulers by the nuns because she spoke Spanish, you know.
Yeah.
And so consequently, when I was born, you know, when my family, my sisters and brothers were born, there was no Spanish taught to us.
Yeah, well, I did the same thing with my kids. I had
Mhm.
2 girls and 3 boys. And, you know, I was talking to Veronica about it, you know, thinking, well, you know, I'm a Chicana,
Mhm.
but I don't know that you are, you
Mhm.
know. But she said, yes, Mom, I'm a Chicana.
Mhm.
And I said, but you didn't really have that feeling when you were growing up, you know, going to school, you know, and stuff like that, because you didn't want to learn the language.
Mm.
But somehow, she said, well, you know, they didn't teach it to us. So somehow or other, she got on board, and she's a Chicana today.
I think it's wonderful. You know, being proud of your heritage is not a crime.
No.
And it's not embarrassing. It's not a shame. It's a wonderful thing. We have a great cultural history, and you know, and we have much to share, and we have a very beautiful culture. And you know, I'm sure that you could probably tell me stories of discrimination in your life.
Oh, yes. I went through it, and all through high school. We moved from Denver. Well, during the war, World War II, farming kind of went dead. They weren't.
It was more industrial. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they came to Denver. They followed the work, you know. So my mom and dad came to Denver,
Mhm.
and they Dad worked in the railroad, unloading railroad cars
Mhm.
for a while. Then eventually he ended up at the packing houses, meat packing houses. And that's what happened to a lot of the Chicanos. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of them went to war. Some of them, you know, they had big families. Dad had a big family. We already had like about, when he left Denver, there was 7 of us already. And he worked out in the farm, and he decided to do some sharecropping.
Mm.
So then, when I left Denver when I was in 7th grade, went to Cole Junior High.
Okay.
And then I had to go to back to Windsor, where we had worked there before, when I was younger. And but this time we knew that Dad was going to put us all to work. Yeah. And he did. We worked really hard. I worked from the 7th grade until I graduated from high school. Out
Wow.
in the beet fields, the sugar beets, the pickles, we call them the pickles, and onions and potatoes up in Wyoming, where the rows were so long you couldn't even see the end of them.
Gee. And you went after school and did this?
Well, you know, yes. When we were out in the spring, we went right to work, and then in the fall, we went back to school. But then there was a period where we had to harvest the sugar beets, so they would let us off for that, and maybe a week or something, you know. Maybe, I don't know how long it took us, but then. Yeah, we had to keep our studies. I passed all my grades.
Wow.
And so did most of my brothers and sisters.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you guys had not just a regular burden, you had an additional
Oh, yes.
load on you, and it was accepted. That's just how it was in those
Yep.
days. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, it was hard work, but you know, I reflect back on it now, and I see that our family, I'm really proud of my family. They all did well, and some of them went on to college. We have like 4 educators, and you know, they all had good jobs. Some went to college in Greeley, and some to Pueblo, and some to CU.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of opportunity, and even when we may feel like there's not, we just got to look around maybe.
Right.
When you started writing, did you think that this was going to be a book, or did you think, maybe a few pages, or was it really in your mind, this is going to be a book, I'm going to write a book?
Well, when I sat down to write this book was like 2 years ago, and I had it in mind to be a book.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. I had a lot of, like I said, I had a lot of journals that I could refer to, and so I was ready.
You bet. You bet. Yeah, my entire book was almost all written up of blogs, you know, and I would go through an experience and I'd say, okay, what did I learn from this? And I'd journal it out. Guys, journaling is such a wonderful
yes,
first step. I mean, if you ever think about even just one thing, it should be journaling. What's the benefit of journaling?
You can go back and read what you did
Oh, man.
at that time. In fact, I just went back to, found one of my journals and opened it up. And it was on my 82nd birthday, and Veronica and I had gone to Salida, and I wrote everything down, you know, and I was reliving it. And I've done a lot of journaling with my son in California. He's had a hard life, and he's been sick a lot, and I've gone to visit him, and it's been really rough, and I've written a lot of that down. Written down, you know, vacations that we were on. I wrote one about my daughter. My daughter Loretta, she took me to, and her husband and family took me to Hawaii one year. So even if I'm poor, I've done a lot of things, you know, because my family has helped me.
Nice.
And done a lot for me. So is my husband. He's gone now, but you know, I've had a lot of adventures that I never planned on, and you know, and so I'm very fortunate.
Man, that is such a. I mean, you know, I'm in my 60s, and I think about tomorrow when I think about next year and, you know, next decade, and I hope to be here, you know, and being in the presence of people who, you know, I mean, at this stage in your life are still doing things like writing books and writing poems, and, you know, it's like, this is so cool.
Plus, I'm a stained glass crafter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I've made some beautiful stuff, you
Have
know.
you?
A lot of it I give away, or I used to give away to, you know, fundraisers for fundraisers, and also, you know, to the family, and sold a few of things, you know, but, you know, things like art is like people, after you die, they notice all those things.
No kidding. No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've had a lot of fun. In fact, that has kept me out of depression a lot, because my husband had dementia for about 18 years. And I took care of him for, you know, about 15 years. I took care of him at home. Finally ended up in a nursing home. And my craft, my art kept me occupied, distracted, and I was able to be a nice person.
Linda Montana, one of our past guests, she's a friend of ours, a healer, has some beautiful stained glass too. He made me think of her, and it's like, what an inspiration to have, to know someone who does this kind of, this creative sharing with the world, and like you say, it's forever. It's going to be there for many, many years, And
yeah, things that I made in 1983 are still looking the same,
Man.
Yeah.
I got to share this with you about journals. I started journaling back in the 80s, and all these books I put and packed away, and probably about 3 months ago I was going through boxes, just throwing junk away, and I came across some of my old journals, and it's like, oh man, I picked it up and I said, wow, I thought that. I really thought, that's how I thought then, and it's like, I look at myself then and I look at myself now, and I'm so glad I wrote these things. Because I mean, literally given myself a message from 1993,
Right, yeah.
And I had some from back in 1980s, and then some from the 90s, and I had written a lot of journals when my wife was dying of cancer.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes I go back and I reflect on those times, and I remember I was reading about when I was in the grocery store, and it was my turn to come up, and all of a sudden it hit me that my wife was dying, and I collapsed on the floor. And I didn't care. I just broke down,
Yeah, you have to sometimes.
And I read that and I said, I did that. I would never imagine myself doing that now. And yet, I showed myself a vulnerability, and I gave my self permission to give those feelings back to me. I don't know if that makes sense, but the journaling is such, if you're not going to write a book, you got to do some journaling.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
My mother left us a lot about. We would give her journals for her birthday, so that she would write. Then she would feel obligated to write something, So she would write things to us, And
Nice.
now I pick them up and I read them, and I share them with my other sisters sometimes, with my family. And when she was alive, my daughter Loretta. Interviewed her a lot, and took, so she made a few tapes.
Wow.
And she's on YouTube with some of her songs that she used to sing.
Too cool, man.
And some of the stories that she knows and stuff like that, so. My mom kind of raised the bar pretty high for us.
What a great thing. Thank you, Mom.
Yeah, exactly.
At the time, you were probably not real happy.
Yeah, my mom only went to 7th grade.
Wow.
So, she was determined that she was not going to let her life just sit, watching TV or playing cards or, but she was very community-minded. And when she and my dad divorced, she took it pretty hard at first, but then she just, blossomed. She blossomed, and she ended up being on the seniors Book of Fame, but not Book of Fame, whatever, the retired, people.
Wow.
And she helped a lot of people, of the seniors there in Greeley and in Windsor, where she lived. So she was an amazing woman.
Very
and,
nice.
It's like she raised 12 kids, and they were like every 2 years she was pregnant. I helped her a lot with her first ones. Believe me, I think I did some diapers.
Wow.
Yeah.
And every day, every single day is ammunition. Every day is input for what you're writing. Every day of your life is. Maybe there's days that are mundane, days that have no real activity or adventure, but you can still find jewels in those days.
Oh, yeah.
This morning I got up and it was so hot and it was just miserable, and I remember I rolled over and I hugged my honey, and I just told her, I gotta come hug you. And she's like, I'm sweaty, get away. And I said, I can't, I'm coming, and it's like, what a treasure. And I forgot about it. I was kind of half asleep. So we're on the way here this morning, and she says, did you know you came over here and hugged me last night? And it's like, such a minute little thing.
Yeah.
And yet it impacted her so deeply that she remembered it after, you know,
Right, yeah.
2 hours after she woke up, you know. And so,
We have a lot of memories from my husband. My husband was quite the, jokester.
mm-hmm.
And when I first got married with him, I'm like, oh boy, I'm very quiet. I'm kind of a quiet person. And so maybe that's why I decided to write a book too. Because
You can express it a different way.
Yes.
Wow.
And, but, she was kind of a quiet person, but, sorry, I lost track there, what I was talking about.
You know, I want to just put that out there. I don't know if you just heard what she said. She said, she's a very quiet person. And you may be too. And that may be what's kept you from writing, because you don't know how to put it on paper.
Yeah.
And you know what? If nobody reads it but you, your thoughts are important. Your thoughts are valid. Your thoughts are your thoughts. And putting them down on paper is a blessing. It really is.
Yeah, well, I guess what I was talking about my husband.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
A jokester.
Mm-hmm.
And so, at first when we were married, being a quiet person, it was a little bit, too much.
Mm-hmm.
And, but now that, I finally decided, well, if you like his jokes, okay, I have nothing to do with that. If you like his jokes, okay, that's up to you. But, Benny's my husband, and I love him no matter what. And so now that he died about 6 years ago, and now we reflect on all his jokes, and we have so much fun with his jokes that he'll always be alive.
He'll live forever.
He'll
Yes.
live forever.
He will truly,
Yeah.
be alive in your heart, and even his grandkids that aren't even born yet can still know him through
exactly,
you. You know,
exactly.
and your grandchildren who aren't born yet can read this book and say, oh, like I had a grandma, and she wrote this book. You know. And
I hope they like it, and I hope that they do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because so many of us are not fortunate enough to, I knew my grandmother and grandfather, but I didn't know them personally. I never sat down and had an adult conversation with them. And so I feel you're so your family is so fortunate to have not only you, but this gift from you. And it really. Like I say, it will last forever.
Yes.
And
yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I tell you, it's I think about my book, and I think about maybe one day, 50 years or 100 years from now, when I'm gone, someone will pick that book up and say, "Who is this guy?"
Exactly. Yeah.
And maybe it's not really for some people to leave a legacy like that, but you can't believe the therapy that you get from just, if it's just journaling. If it's that little thing of journaling, there are so many benefits to it.
Yeah, I have a sister-in-law on Benny's, my husband's side of the family. She's the only one left. And she refuses to give any information. I don't know, she always says, I don't remember. And she's a little bit older than I am, but anyway, so we really don't know too much about my husband's family, except his mother. I know that his father died when he was like 4 years old up in Montana, so he never had a father. But and I knew some of the siblings, but I didn't really ever know too much about the other relatives. They were Trujillo. She was Trujillo. His mother was Trujillo, and his dad was Montoya.
Uh-huh.
And I would sure like to find out more about them.
Tell me, these Trujillos, are these the Trujillos that moved into Wyoming from New Mexico?
Yes.
I have some. I'm Trujillo. My mom was Trujillo. My grandpa was Trujillo. Grandma was Trujillo. And we have some Trujillo family. They're all real tall, but they were from the San Luis Valley, and they moved to Wyoming. So hey, we might be related.
Yeah, you never know. I know, it's really kind of weird how, you know, the people that came from New Mexico, you know, they went to the San Luis Valley, some of them, you know, some of them went to Pueblo. And then a lot of them ended up here in Denver, you know. But it's just, yeah, you never know. You might be related.
No kidding, no
Yeah.
kidding. There's a book I discovered years ago. It was called The People of El Valle. And it was about the people of the San Luis Valley and how they migrated from Santa Fe, well, Mexico City to Santa Fe to the San Luis Valley. And most of them settled there for generations, and they developed their own culture, unique in all the Chicano Latino culture. Their language, their dialect, their marriage customs, their wedding customs, their music, their food, you know, everything. Family values, it all was unique in that little pocket. And then a lot of them migrated north, like you say, to Pueblo and to Denver and, you know, to Wyoming and from there. But there's a legacy that's there, and that, you know, it's forever.
And our language.
Yes.
I was talking to, what's her name? Kim.
Oh, Kimberly Sanchez?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And I know her from, I used to volunteer at Clinica Tepeyac when she was working there, and that's how I got to know her.
Ah.
And we were talking about her book.
Oh,
and,
man, she's got a book.
Yeah. And how, you know, that she, you know, was talking about the language, the Spanglish. And I'm like, oh, I said, I think that's what we did. Because a lot of times, you know, when people from Mexico or from, you know, South America come, you know, they can't understand our Spanish, you know. So I don't even go there.
I know, you say someone, ¿quieres queque? They go, queque, ¿qué está queque? You know, there's so many words that we've changed, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like we call them huevón and they call them perezoso, you know. And I mean, there's so many words that we've interchanged or exchanged for the, you know, the original word of the proper word.
Yeah, and we didn't know any better. My poor little, one of my little brothers went out to the field to tell some of the people that something, I don't know, but he said something about his dad had his money in his calzones.
Calzones.
And they all teased him about that, you know. Oh, it was funny, you know, but yeah, you know, so a lot of it is not really considered Spanish, you know. But when I went to Spain, they could understand me.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I remember when I was in the Army and we went to Germany, and there was some Spaniards there. And one of my buddies went over there and started, and I didn't speak Spanish at all then, you know, but one of my buddies went over there and started talking to someone, and I was so fascinated that he spoke the same Spanish. They spoke Castilian Spanish, you know, and so some of the F, you know, were with a, you know, with a TH instead of an S. But they were very, very easy to, you know, communicative, and they were able to understand each other fully.
My sister-in-law and I went, and you know, we had a really good time. I mean, and spoke to the people. They could understand us. So
wow,
that was good.
That's a very good experience. I remember my mom had a couple of foreign exchange students, both from the north of Spain. They were Basque, and I mean, I learned so much about Spain, about the Basque people, about, you know, and then so it's so nice to be able to, you know, just spread your wings, you know, and get a little bit of knowledge.
I would like to go back. Might be too late for me. I don't think I want to travel too much.
It's not safe for Americans anywhere.
I know.
We've really stepped on toes across the country and across the world. I mean, across the world.
Yes. It's, you know, sad.
And I know this is a tough question, but what's next for you?
Well, right now I'm trying to finish up my glass that I have. So I'm doing a lot of, you know, trying to spend maybe 3 hours a day on my glass. And I don't know, I might come up with another book. I
why
just
not?
don't really know, you know.
Why not? Yeah.
But I'm kind of searching my mind to see what kind of a book I want to write.
Wow. there's no limit.
Yeah.
I mean, you could write science fiction if you wanted. You could write
Yeah.
anything you want. There's
Yeah.
just, it's all in your hand. It's
Yeah.
all.
Your imagination can drive you crazy.
Mhm. You know, it is written, where there is no vision, the people perish.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you always continually have to see something before you. You know, I always, well, not always, but I've told a story before about these three boys walking across a snowy field. And they said, let's have a contest to see who can walk the straightest path. And the first boy just walked and walked and walked, and when he was done, his path looked like a great big arc. The second boy started walking, he took a few steps, looked back, took a few steps, looked back, took a few steps, and all the way across the field, his zigzag path was nothing like a straight line. And the last boy looked at the across the field and saw a house. And behind the house, he saw the sun. And he said, if I keep that sun in line with the house, I think I can walk a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
And he walked a perfectly straight line.
Well, yeah.
And so I tell people, look, you got to look across the field. You got to see the house, you got to see the sun, you got to see the moon, because today is the only day you got, but tomorrow's coming.
Yeah.
And so I love that story. I love to share it.
Yeah. In this book here, I tried to show the girls about their indigenous side of their family, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're all gung ho about learning about that. So it's good stories.
So
about
good.
that.
Yeah, that's wonderful that they are open and they want to hear more and learn
Yeah,
more.
right.
And not only that, it's an inspiration to them. They say, man, if my mom could do this, if my grandma could do this, I think I can do it too.
Of course.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, why not, man?
I have a lot of smart grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can do anything really.
You bet. All they have to do
Yeah.
is it's a decision away.
Yeah, right.
Mm. What advice do you have for someone out there who's sitting at their tablet or they're sitting at their laptop and they haven't written, but they've thought about it and thought about it? What would you say to someone who's considering, but they just haven't gotten over that threshold? What would you tell them?
Well, they're again, journaling would be really good for them to go back and start writing
Mm-hmm.
longhand,
Mm-hmm.
putting notes on a pad or something, and think about things that have that you've been exposed to in life.
Mm-hmm.
If it's something that you want to say about, you know, your religion or your art or whatever, you know, whatever is interesting to you, write those things down, and then start zeroing in on those thoughts and build a little story behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's I think, you know, you have to read a lot though too.
Yeah, it does help to be a
Yeah.
reader. Mm-hmm.
And make sure that you know, check a lot of your information that you're writing down, and if it's, you know, fiction, you can go wild with that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, guys, I mean, if you haven't been inspired today, you've been sleeping. I mean, we have, this is a woman who has really made the most of a life, you know, who has a well-lived life, and she's still going strong. Guys, I want to make sure to announce this. I will be offering retreats. It's a 2-day retreat. It's only good for, I mean, I only have 2 spots that will be available. It's a personal retreat that I will be putting on, and so if anyone is interested in going through this, it's a consciousness retreat. It's a personal retreat that you will get personal growth from, and we just did one 2 weeks ago, and we had a tremendous response. But I will be offering that in the future, in the weeks to come. So please do contact me through the station. We'd be happy to help you with that. We have been talking to Beatriz Montoya, the author of The D, B, and G Bed and Breakfast, also book 2. And this book is available at the Old Cultural Legacy Bookstore on 32nd and Mead. Is that where it
No,
is?
not this one, but
The first one. So this book is available, and I promise you guys it's a worthwhile read. It's like I say, it's entertaining. It has really good flow to it. It's well written, and it's something that may inspire you to pick up that pen or to get that laptop going and start typing.
you can always email me for this book.
If you'd like to, what is your email?
busybmontoya@gmail.com. busybee@gmail.com.
Did you get that? busybmontoya@gmail.com. BUSYBEE.
BEA.
busybea@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So, very, very easy to find, a good book to read, worthwhile. We just went over 3 years that I've been hosting the show. And I started out replacing Albert Quintana,
Oh.
and he was the host before me.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
you're his cousin.
Yeah, I didn't know that he was a host, though.
Yeah, he hosted the
Oh.
show before me. He actually interviewed me as a
Oh.
guest on the show. And then Sylvia interviewed me again, and that's how I ended up coming here. And so it's been a real experience for me, a great experience.
Thank you for doing this.
It's my honor,
Yeah.
you know. Again, I want to make sure and mention tomorrow at 1 o'clock at the GI Forum, 17th and Federal, Calma, the Colorado Alliance for Latino Mentors and Authors, will be hosting their open forum, open meeting, and really need to see your face there. Go out there and find some of these awesome individuals. I'm not kidding you. If you're like me, you won't sleep after coming home from there. I mean it. I went and I met Manuel Ramos, and I met Ricardo Laforé, and I met Rudy Garcia, and Arturo Jimenez, and Frank Davila. There's so many, Kimberly Sanchez and Virginia Sanchez. Juana Bordas. Oh my gosh, how could I forget her? Juana, the dynamo.
Yeah.
And go there and meet these people who are changing the world, who are really standing up for you and mentoring our young and old people. And it's tomorrow. It's at 1 o'clock, 17th and Federal. Don't miss it. I got about just a couple of minutes left. I want to make sure, guys, stay with us because Paul Chavez, Mr. International, will be coming up. Put on some great music. I tell you, when we leave here, we like to put it on there and just listen to KUHS all afternoon. You mentioned in your book KUVO, and you listen to KUVO, and they have Canción Mexicana. Well, on the here we have on Sunday we have Canciones de Domingo, and it's wonderful music all day, all afternoon, and we even listen to it into the evening many times, and it's very good music. I mean, we listen to KUHS, in the evenings when we're sitting out in the backyard. I love it, and so.
Yeah, we always love music, me and my husband.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big music guy. I love to sing. I don't sing good, but I sing. And guys, it's such an honor to have you guys. I'm so pleased, and I don't know if there's only 3 of you watching. There may be, but I don't know. But those of you who are here, you're all we want. You're all we need. And your input is important. And your skill and your gift needs to be spread. It needs to be shared. Guys, I say it every week on this show. Everybody's looking for a hero. If you can't find one, be one.
My name is B.
Be one. Beatriz Montoya, I'm so pleased to have you on the show.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Yes.
Now, where can my family see this?
So, if you go to Facebook and you go to KUHS or Henry Archuleta, you'll see the show. After the show, I'm going to email you a copy of the show so you can have that.
Cool.
If you go on the Boost on Facebook, I have a page called The Boost, and I put all of my archived shows on there. There's a few that didn't get archived, but you can find the show on there. So after the show, I will make sure and get a copy of the show to you.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Guys, we are looking at a hero. We're looking at someone who's in her life has made so much of a difference in other people's lives. Even if it's your own family, pick up your pen, get out your tablet, sit at your computer, write that book. It's waiting. Your wisdom is waiting to be shared. Guys, you've been watching The Weekend Boost. I am your host, Paul Lane. Thank you for joining us. Make sure and shut those off before I do. No, I think we're still on. No sound.